Textures dropped their first album in a long time at the end of January, and I am a fan. Full disclosure right up front. So let's talk about it. What's up, dude? What'd you think?
Genotype. Did I say that correctly?
I think Genotype.
Genotype.
Yeah, they had an album that the previous album before the band broke up in 2017 was Phenotype,
yeah.
Or Phenotype, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they disbanded. I know that initially the album that just came out was meant to be a sort of a companion piece with Phenotype, and it is not. They decided to just scrap everything and write all new material, which is, I don't know, hey, whatever. I would have liked to have heard what they had going, but your thoughts, sir?
Well, my understanding is this is experimental ambient leaning music, less djenty is what I have read about it. I listened to it several times through. It is definitely ambient in nature, much more so than Phenotype was. I really, really like the song "Shaping a Single Grain of Sand" on Phenotype. Like, it's amazing. Amazing track. And so I kept looking on this record for something that was similar to that, and I never got it. So that's not to say that the record sucks, but it was not nearly as heavy as the previous record.
That is one of my absolute favorites of theirs. Storm Warning is another. I am you know me, I'm the prog guy between the two of us. This band has tickled me in all the right places over the years, and I was excited when this came out. But you're right. There are moments of sort of the older school textures throughout the record, but yeah, it is definitely not spacey, but yeah, a little more ambient. There's the intro, Void, is I love it. I think it's a great intro. It's very theatric and cinematic. The whole album is very theatric and cinematic in nature, and it sets the tone. And then, of course, the first big track just comes in at the edge of winter with Charlotte. I think it's Wessels or Wessels.
Yep.
And she's great. I don't know. I mean, you're to simplify it, you're more the thrash guy, or I'm more the prog guy. Vocally, I think that this album sits with a lot of other progressive metal bands with like some heavy vibrato and stuff. How does that sort of vibe land with you?
You know, what's funny is I was taking a crap actually before this, and I was thinking whether or not I wanted to say what I'm about to say to you. Is I felt like the vocals were a weakness on this record.
Really?
I really liked the vocals on the prior record, Phenotype, much more. I am more of an aggressive listener, and I just felt like it was a little bit forced. I wasn't in love with it, and in fact, I was thinking that I would have actually liked this record to almost be just ambient without vocals on it, because there's a lot to hear, you know, from a musical standpoint on the entire record. You know, At the Edge of Winter, it's a weird duet for me. It's a very strange track. I didn't dislike it. I didn't love it, but I loved parts of Phenotype. And that was the difference for me. It was like I just couldn't sink my teeth into this and get into it the way that I did with the prior record.
Well, I'll tell you, I don't love everything that they've put out. I wouldn't say I dislike anything that they've done, but you know, as we were saying, you know, Arms of the Sea, Storm Warning, Shaping a Single Grain of Sand. Each album has had standout tracks, and this album is no different in that regard. And I think that the thick vibrato vocal style is, it's not good, it's not bad. It is what it is. And if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. Like Dream Theater, when I first got into progressive metal, in I'm trying to remember when Images and Words came out.
Yeah.
And James LaBrie's vocals with Dream Theater, that was the one thing that I love Dream Theater, but his vocal style is that heavy, thick vibrato. And it's always been a little too operatic for me, and kind of takes me out of the metal vibe. And it's a personal preference thing. Music is subjective. as we all know. But I don't totally disagree. I prefer Daniel's, the lead vocalist. Or vocalist rather. I prefer his more aggro, gnarly passages than I do the clean stuff. Though I do there are some pretty cool clean vocals on this album, I think.
Yeah, Vanishing Twin, very emotional, incredibly emotional. It's kind of like, for me, it was like the very heart of the record. It was haunting in the best way possible. And so that stood out to me, whereas that probably wouldn't have fit in Phenotype prior.
Yeah. Well, the intro, I think it's Vanishing Twin, where they have that kind of synthy vocoder style vocal intro, which apparently the band has joked that is their prog metal answer to like Bohemian Rhapsody or something like that.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, some great drums in that track. Band members, I'm sticking with first names because I'll kill the last names.
Yep.
The band is from Tilburg in the Netherlands. We have Daniel de Jong, I think, on vocals, Bart and Joe on guitars, Remko on bass, Yuri on keys, and Steph on drums. And they're all great musicians. They're top tier, and they bring strong performances to the record. It was produced by Forrester Savell. Or Saville. Again, we're just terrible with names, and I'm worse today than I usually am. He mixed the album. He's worked with Carnival, who is another favorite band of mine. I think from a production standpoint, it's a great record. It's really thick production. It's a big record, and I love the overall tone of it. And he did a great job mixing these tracks to really give each instrument its own space. And I think vocal stylings, I don't know if I'd go so far as to say it was a weak point on the album. Not my favorite part of the album, but the album packaged as a whole, I think, was really well produced and is a great finished product.
The general consensus is, in looking at other media out there, is that this is a masterclass in progressive metal. I prefer my progressive metal to be much more aggressive. Meshuggah, for example.
Yeah.
You turned me on to Meshuggah years ago, and I loved them. And I kind of looked at it and I go, well, if I was a fan of textures the way that I'm a fan of Meshuggah, and they came back with all this ambient melodic stuff, I would not love it. I want to hear the blood and the gore and the rhythmic, onslaught that is Meshuggah.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if longtime fans of the band are going to love this record or hate it, but I think for folks that are probably not as into progressive metal or know who textures are, this is a great launching point into them, and then go backwards and listen to the more aggressive stuff.
Agreed. Yeah, I think it's a great entry point. Not just for people getting into textures, but maybe folks who want to dabble in the progressive metal waters. Meshuggah, as you know, we're both huge fans, and Meshuggah is the godfathers of progressive metal to me. When you think of the early, they've been around for 40 years, but there's a reason they're so good. They've been doing it a long time, and I think they sort of pioneered the style to an extent. And they come hard. And excuse me, Jens as a vocalist with Meshuggah, he has a very, very aggro vocal style, and I too love it and lean towards that side of vocals when it comes to aggressive music. But I'll say that and then turn right around and bring up Tesseract, a band who is very djenty and mathy and progressive metal oriented. And they have now and have had vocalists who are very melodic and very clean. The last vocalist that Tesseract had was all clean. So I think that clean vocals certainly have a place. But I appreciate that if you're into the more aggro style, you're into the more aggro style.
I tend to like polyrhythmic, progressive metal. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the word. And again, you're the more of the expert on prog, but I like the polyrhythmic version with the more aggressive side. And so this didn't touch all the buttons for me. I
Hmm.
am excited about the fact that I was able to go back and listen to Phenotype, and I will listen to that record probably a lot more than this one. And so for those of you who are watching or listening to the podcast, take that for what it's worth. I think that giving both records a chance is a great way to go. There's a lot to hear. They're super talented. I just don't love the vocals on this record
Hmm.
comparatively.
Are there any songs on the album that you would pick out and put on a playlist? Anything from this, along with their other albums?
Yeah, I mean, I thought Measuring the Heavens was, it kind of built tension.
Hmm.
And then it finally did there was a payoff there.
Yep.
I like the intricate synth is pretty deep into the track. That was really good as well. Kind of a kicking in the nuts,
Hmm.
if you will. But for the most part, and I liked Vanishing Twin quite a bit. I thought Closer to the Unknown was super accessible, a little too accessible for me.
Hmm.
I didn't love that one at all. And the one thing I will say is I was glad that they kept the track list at 8. They didn't go too far, and they didn't go too far down the rabbit hole of cinematic sounds, because they
Hmm.
could have very easily done that and put a couple tracks at the end here that had nothing to do with metal at all, and they didn't. They stayed kind of true to their sound and
Hmm.
what they
Yeah,
were
and
looking to do.
45, 46-minute runtime for the whole record. And
Yep.
they've got some longer tracks in here. Interesting that Closer to the Unknown was not well, it's not interesting. It is what it is. Not one of your favorites. That was one of the standouts to me that
Mhm.
I felt that brought a lot of the prototypical textures elements to it and kind of took me back to some of the tracks that I really love by them.
It was really catchy, and maybe that's what I didn't love about it was how
Hmm.
catchy it was, because, and again, maybe I'm ruined when it comes to prog because of Meshuggah, and you might have ruined me with it because everything else I compare it to them, and
Yeah,
it doesn't compare, and I do blame you.
sure. I'll take it.
You're a jackwagon for ruining all progressive metal for me, but so much so that I actually just found a download of them at, I believe it was Wacken a couple years ago on the Immutable tour, and I downloaded the
Mm.
whole thing on MP3, and I have it on, and I've been playing it pretty much nonstop.
Ah.
And I hate to say this, yesterday I was driving back from dropping my kids off because I had them for vacation, and I listened to Textures for about 20 minutes of the ride, and then I went and listened to Meshuggah,
Went to Meshuggah.
and I listened to that live Wacken recording because
Oh,
it's so good.
it is. It really is good. Well, you
Yeah.
and I have talked. I mean, this is as much about Meshuggah. We're making this as much about Meshuggah as it is textures. But you and I have talked recently about wanting them to put out a live record of some of the current tours, and this may, those recordings may be as close as we're gonna get.
Yeah, well, you never know. I mean, and I sent those all to you on MP3, and they are out there if you're looking for them. Just
Yeah.
go on YouTube, and people will take them, track them, upload them as MP3s, just direct downloads. In fact, I have them. So if you're interested, DM us, and I'll send them to you because
Yeah.
they're really worthy. Um, but back to textures. I mean, look, they're way more talented than I am. So I shouldn't be complaining too much. But, just when it comes to personal taste, I appreciated the more aggressive side. I've said this 3 times, and I'll say it again. But it's worthy of your time. I think that starting with this and then going backwards is the right way to go.
Hmm. It'll be interesting to see where textures goes from here. They took a pretty extended hiatus, and I think this is a very strong return, especially after pretty damn strong records before,
Hmm.
in the early 2000s. So I'm excited to see what they do. I have not seen them live. I would love to see them live. It's always, when you have your favorite band or a band that you're really into, I get a little nervous when it comes time to seeing them live because I never want to be disappointed by a band that can work magic in a studio, but then can't replicate it live. And I would expect that a band that has such talented players as Textures, I would expect that they can get up and replicate it, do a pretty fine job of presenting the material live. But it's tough. I mean, some of the music, especially the progressive stuff that's out now, it's super, super involved, and the parts are not necessarily, intrinsically simple or easy to play.
Yeah.
And so I get a little twitchy, like, oh shit, I hope these guys get up there and just crush it, because I want to leave. I think everybody wants to go to a show and see the most amazing live music they've ever seen before. And it's disappointing when a band doesn't hit the mark. My expectation is that Textures would be a great live band, up close and personal. So hopefully we'll get the chance to see it.
They're very Devin Townsend like,
Yeah.
and I think that if you like Devin Townsend, you'll probably really like this band, especially this record. I think that there's a good metamorphosis there. If I could, I want to use our very little platform for the three people that stick with us. A Seat for the Like-Minded really got me thinking about people, and there's people in our lives, and for some, life is much heavier and harder for them. And a lot of that has to do with mental health. And so I wanted to take this moment to remind everybody that if you love somebody and people are around you, but their life is harder and they make your life more difficult and they suck you in and they take up a lot of space, remember that you are there to help them. And I think it's hugely important for people to accept that some people have mental health problems and don't hold it against them, but help them. Just help them any way that you can. Ask them to go get help, mental help, get, if they have a mental disorder that is a chemical imbalance, psychiatric help, getting some medicine can help, but don't give up on your friends and your family. It's hugely important to stay in that foxhole with them.
Yeah. Just on the human side, I think everybody probably wants to be a good steward for humanity. I think it's inherent in people to just be good and be good to your neighbor and, your brother and your friend and your coworkers and that sort of thing. And I appreciate the sentiment. And, equally as important when someone is struggling and you stay there to help prop them up or just be there in the room with them, whatever it is that they need. Take note when things are great too, and appreciate the days that are awesome when there isn't something bad happening. And I'm very guilty of that. I have to remind myself, like, oh shit, take note that today is fucking amazing and that things are good and that, me and the people around me are having great days, and embrace those days, because life is hard. Life is fucking hard, man.
Yeah, and the right things are the hardest things to do, and it is easier to write people off. And I think that we live in a society. And look, let's be honest. The war just broke out in the Middle East with Iran, and you turn on the news, and it is pretty desolate, and it's hard. But what is easy to do is to give up on the people that need you at the time that they need you. And again, music and art is supposed to bring that stuff out of you. And when I was listening to this yesterday, A Seat for the Like-Minded really did sit with me, and it made me start thinking about somebody in my life that needs help and how easy it would be for me to run off. And I'm not going to do that. Do I want to sometimes? Yes, but I'm not going to. And so, again, use that for what it's worth. And thank you for Textures for drawing up that emotion out of me to get me to reflect.
Yeah. It's tough to find the good and the positive sometimes, especially when things are at their darkest. And as you said, societally, things are kind of dark still these days. And thank God for music and art and the things that we find beauty in. The little things as well as the big things.
it is the small things too. And, again, finding, I didn't want to come on here and crap on textures because I don't like the vocals on it.
Yeah.
Right. But, but there is those little things, and it was that stood out for me. But there's little things like putting on a Black Sabbath t-shirt. My partner Heidi got me hand sanitizer that smells like the resort that we stayed at Disney. And it does smell like the resort, and it takes you back there. And it's those little tiny things that can get you through some of those dark days. And, turn off the news. Just turn it off. If you can't handle it and you don't want to hear it, turn it off. And go listen to Textures. Go listen to Meshuggah. Go put on your favorite Metallica record. Go put on whatever black metal band that's come out that's super dark and evil, and twist your knobs in the right way.
Yeah, hell for that matter. Throw on some Van Morrison, some Neil Diamond, whatever it is that turns your wheels and lifts you up.
Yeah.
Take advantage. I mean,
sure.
People have put lots of heart and soul into these artistic endeavors over the years, and I'm sure plenty of artists write just for themselves and produce works of art just for themselves, and that's great. But the fact that they share it with us, like we get to use them as tools.
DM us and we'll give you some stickers. Just send us your address and I will drop them in the mail. I got a bunch.
Yeah, some guy we wound up on one of our, we'll quote unquote call him a listener. Roger from Vermont, we wound up on a sticker as he called us out as the worst podcast he's ever heard, and I couldn't be more proud of his feedback. So thank you, Roger.
Yeah, and keep for all the trolls out there, keep leaving comments and telling us we don't know our asses from a hole in the ground.
And we've got some new listeners, some new subscribers on YouTube, and some of the other social media channels. So welcome. We appreciate that you check our stuff out. If you agree with it, awesome. If you don't agree with it, that's cool too. Feel free to, we're not sitting in a silo here, so you have an opportunity to comment and let us know what you think. So definitely go right ahead. I really thoroughly enjoy the record. There's things I love. There's things that I don't love as much, but overall I think it's a great package. And Textures, Genotype, we don't know. We're idiots. But it's worth a listen for sure. So enjoy it.
Yeah, sounds good. We'll see if we can get some interviews and see if we can tee up something really good that's on the horizon for you guys to check out soon.
Indeed. Like, comment, subscribe, share the video, and tell us how idiotic we are. Until next time.